Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video I have two Kingpin to paint up. I have both the regular version and the zombified version. And this is for the Marvel Zombies board game. We have a couple of prominent seam lines which need cleaning up, so I'll get them filed down before we start painting. And since both of these essentially share the same colour scheme, I'm going to paint them up side by side. And starting off as always with the primer. Then I apply a fresh colour to both miniatures, especially on the zombie version as it has a lot of open wounds, and that is followed up by a flesh wash to add some definition. Plus I also dry brush on some greens and yellows for the open wounds, as it's clear after Kingpin had been dead for quite some time and is beginning to rot. There is also an exposed bone on his leg, so I'll paint that white, and I will bloody that up at the end of the painting process. And I finish all that off by adding a few select areas of some red wash, and this will help represent some areas where some blood is still coming through. And now I can move on to the clothing, starting off with the purple pants, and this means painting around all those open wounds. Then the waistcoat appears to be a yellowy mustardy colour, although on the zombie counterpart most of that appears to have been ripped off. And then I went and painted the shoes in black, and this meant negotiation around the rocks on the base, so that will require a bit of clean up. And now for his most noticeable attire, his huge white jacket and shirt. And now I found I needed a couple of coats to get even coverage, and this was more taxing on the zombie version as his shirt had come undone. And by this point I realised I hadn't painted the cane, so I painted that black. And the cane for the zombie version is wedged into his arm. The diamond tips were simply painted in white. Then to make the diamond look a little bit more interesting, I added on a blue wash. And this is my attempt to make it try and look like it's reflecting light. The only other option would be to cut it off and replace it with a fake diamond. There's a lot of detail in the white jacket and shirt which can't be seen, so to help that process I cover it with a grey wash, but for the clean human version I kept that wash fairly light. Next I painstakingly painted on all the buttons in a gold colour, and this really does help sell the scale. And now I can turn my attention to the bases, and these are basically just painted in grey and then covered in a black wash. There are some noticeable details on these bases, especially on the zombie version. There are some masks and weapons on the floor, but it's hard to make out who they belong to, so I decided not to paint them up and let them blend in with the background. As we're nearing the end, it's always nice to paint a trim around the base, and this essentially underlines your model, letting people know that it's finished. Although there's one more detail to add, and that's a white dry brush on the base, and this really does help all the individual little details pop out. And then I'm ready to protect that paint with a matte sealer. Although at this point I realised I forgot something very important: the gore. So using a tatty old brush I dab on some blood splatters for zombie Kingpin, mostly around his mouth and his hand from where he's been eating people. So there we have it, pre and post zombie Kingpin. And it's nice to see the contrasting difference between the same character, as this guy essentially goes from bad to worse. Well, I do have plenty of Marvel zombie characters within my collection, so if there's any in particular you'd like to see painted up, let me know in the comment below and I'll see what I can do. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, if I can do it, so can you.